everyone, this is Elise with Elm Creative, and today I wanted to share some simple brush lettering tips with you. I will be starting with the Tombow Duel Pen. This pen features a brush tip on one end, which is what you will use to get the thick and thin lines of a calligraphy look. It also features a fine tip. This is great for maybe doing a little bit more detailed work with a fine tip, or touching up the lettering that you've done with the brush tip. So it's nice, it has two different tips in it, so it's great for multi-purpose use. The first thing I recommend doing when you start brush lettering is to get a feel for your pen. I recommend doing this with any type of pen that you use. Especially if you haven't used it before, it's really essential to get the feel for how the brush tip works. Some might be a little bit firmer, others might be softer, so you might need to use more pressure, less pressure, things like that. So I just recommend first practicing, the thick down strokes that you'll be using, the thinner up strokes, and maybe also weaving in some kind of squiggly, curvy lines, just to get a feel for how the pen works, how it feels in your hand, the amount of pressure that you'll need to use, etc. Then I would suggest just taking your time, slowly, simply working through the alphabet, different letters, practicing how you form them. For people who haven't done any sort of hand lettering before, you might notice that you shape the letters differently than if you were taught, say, cursive in school, things like that. There are some of the letters that you might form differently than what you're used to. So that's why I suggest just taking your time, just practicing. Get a cheap notebook. Obviously you don't want the paper to be too thin or it will bleed through, but just something that will work for you to practice on. And just get a feel for that brush tip. Once you kind of have maybe a certain style down, or you feel like you've practiced enough individual letters, I recommend practicing combining the letters. And so something else that I also recommend, if you pick up your pen between different strokes, which is a helpful idea, I just recommend whenever you pick it up in an area that you will be drawing over again. This will just help it look more cohesive, and that way you'll just have smooth lines throughout. Sometimes if you pick it up kind of, I would say, in the quote wrong place, it can just make things look a little bit messy. You don't get that smooth finished quality. So always pick up in somewhere that, it'll kind of be disguised by a different stroke over wherever it's picked up. If you do pick it up in the middle, so for example, if I was going to go in here and do an S, you might not see it on the video so much, but you will kind of notice that, oh, there's some thicker, darker line and not so dark, and it might just kind of look a little bit messy. So that's why I recommend picking it up in an area that you're going to draw over again. And just remember, again, thick down strokes, thinner up strokes, thinner kind of, to the side. That's kind of, again, how you get that look of modern calligraphy. If you aren't going to be drawing another letter and you're just sort of done with maybe your word that you're working on, you can do a flourish, you can do maybe like a little bit of a flare on the end, just to give it, kind of a finished look. So those are some of the basic tips for just general lettering with a brush pen. I also have a few other pens that I brought just to demonstrate some of the differences in the tip style, so to speak. So this one is the Faber Castell Pitt Artist Pen with the brush tip just in simple black. And so you'll notice different brush pens have different sizes, different kind of almost consistencies. So with this one, you don't get as thick of that thick downstroke line that you would with the Tombow. It's kind of a thinner brush tip on this one. What I like about this pen is it works for lettering smaller words. With the Tombow pen, I feel like because it does have the thicker brush tip, you'll probably end up lettering sort of larger words with the thicker downstrokes. With the Faber-Castell brush pen, you can get a little bit smaller with your words, a little smaller with the letters because the tip is a little bit finer. I also have the Tombow Fudenosuke pens here, and so this one that has the green and blue, that's going to be the harder tip, and then the one that has the pink and the gold, that's going to be the softer tip. So I'll start with that one. And these are even smaller. It is still considered a brush pen or a calligraphy pen because you can get that shape out of it. So again, this is the softer tip. So this one you can get even smaller with your lettering than with the firm tip. This is what it looks like. So with this one you can get even finer lines. Your thicker downstrokes won't be as thick as they would be with another type of brush pen. So these can work great for details, for flourishes, for writing smaller, things like that. So these are made by Tombow. Also, obviously, this one is made by Tombow. So there's lots of different types of brush pens that you can find, that you can try. So that's why, like I said in the beginning, I just recommend taking your time, just practicing, seeing what you like best. For certain projects, you might want different types of pens. You might find yourself gravitating toward just one type of brush tip. So I really recommend just exploring, just trying different things, seeing what you personally like best. Those are my tips for today. If you do have any questions or a tip that you want to share, please just leave that in the comments. I would always love to check out your work, anything that you're working on, any of your brush lettering. So you can always leave me a link and I'll definitely check out your work. Thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.